Just wanted to do a quick self recap video after doing California Superbike School Level 3. Got this swanky hoodie because it was really helpful to do it after Level 2, because I just thought, oh, I'll remember everything, and then like 3 months later I was forgetting a lot of the stuff. So this will be both a recap of the actual Level 3 lessons, and then the actual sort of feedback I got and pointers for me that I need to work on, so that when I review this, they'll come back to mind, and maybe other people will have similar or maybe different things they need to work on. So you level 1 is all about throttle control, level 2 is all about vision, level 3 is all about body position, and that's it actually. Level 4 is just custom tailored stuff. So it kind of bangs out the core parts of riding a motorcycle. And level 3 begins with there's 5 sessions, so that means there's 5 lessons. First lesson is about when to move your butt. I think the phrase was move your ass on the gas, aka get your butt set up for the next corner while you have the throttle on. And I think at the highest level you could potentially do that movement the split second that you roll off the gas or something like that. I know I've seen some commentary like that, but I think the point is to set beginner riders up. All these lessons are to set beginners up with the right fundamentals, and then as you get better you can sort of blur them all together. And it's pretty apparent immediately, just when you move your body while you're on the throttle, the bike is stable as all hell. You feel like you have all the time in the world. So I never felt rushed at all to set my body up going into any of the corners, which is important, right? Because lessons 2 through 5 are all about doing different things and focusing on a different part of your body. And so I think they don't want people doing all that while the bike is not on the throttle and therefore a little unstable, or maybe you're starting to even lean into a corner. So set your butt up while you're on the gas. What was interesting is it felt good, but then at Thunderhill West, where I did it and where I've done all of the CSS levels, because I figured that having to learn a new track would add mental load. So wherever I did the first one, I've been going back there. What happened was, so between turn 1 and turn 2, you come on turn 1's left, right, left, and it's this sort of transition, and they're all quite aggressive corners. I mean, they're not little. Maybe the first one's sort of a slight left, and then a hard long right, and then the biggest sweeping sort of carousel left. And then there's another point. There was another point elsewhere on the track. I'm not actually sure where it was. Maybe it was between 4 and 5, but really between 1 and 2 was where, on lesson 1, I was getting my body all moved, and there was quite a lot of movement going on, and the S1000 was a bit wobbly. I think that really unsettled me, because I don't have one of those bikes, but level 1 and 2, I felt like I was riding a freight train. I mean, that thing it holds a line. It weighs a ton. It felt very confidence inspiring how stable that thing was. And then here I am, like first session of level 3. I'm moving my body quite a lot. And when I'm in this sort of transition period, the bike, I can feel the suspension going. The suspension is completely unsettled in that transition. It wasn't squirrely on the handlebars, which obviously I've had the pleasure of experiencing on the Duke, due to my own errors. I'm on the left of the bike coming into turn 1, move over to the right for like 1B or whatever they call it, then slam back over to the left again for 2, and I could feel the bike doing, you know, a little bit of like pogo rebound, and I'm trying to lean, and it was not very exciting, I would say. I mean, well, it was exciting, but not very encouraging. So I sort of came away from that session feeling like I'd had a lot more time in all the corners because because I was getting set up. Let me just pass this guy. Because I was getting set up while I was on the gas, so bike was stable while getting set up, and I'd had a lot of time. But yeah, I was not excited about how unstable I felt. So then afterwards in the session, you know, the instructor gave me some feedback. I actually thought this was the first time. All the other instructors I've had have just been phenomenally good, and I think the one I had for level 3 was a bit older, and all of his like lesson content was good, and he called me out on things that I was doing that I'll get to in a bit, and he was absolutely correct. And this is probably just my inner millennial speaking, but he wasn't like very enthusiastic, and so, you know, I didn't feel like he was like when he was giving me feedback, it was like I don't know, it didn't really seem, it never felt memorable. Or well, the two things that he called out that I'll get to, that I was really wrong on. Obviously I remember that because he was right and I hate being wrong, and I fixed it and it made a huge difference. So like he helped a lot, but yeah, I don't know, it felt a little formulaic, and like he wasn't like super, like the previous two people I'd had in level 1 and 2 were just absolutely fantastic. They were really engaged in the feedback. They were like excited to watch me get better over the course of the day, and then that made me excited, and then they made me feel like I was making progress, which made me more confident, and then that made me more encouraged. Yeah, I think that's probably it. Like I didn't. He gave me feedback, and I knew what I was doing wrong, but I didn't come away from ever talking with him feeling confident or like gassed up, you know. And I mean, yeah, it sounds ridiculous to say, but I mean, the bike's scary, man. I mean, it's scary to do this stuff. You need to be gassed up a little bit. At least I do if I don't have my music playing. All right, so lesson 1 was about moving on the gas, and I'd done it and it felt great, but the bike was unsettled in the transition. I asked my instructor, and he was like, just go to the next classroom session, and that'll make more sense than me telling you stuff. And I was like, all right, well, you could have told me something, but okay, fine. But I get to the next classroom session, and lesson 2 is called knee to knee, and it solved that issue completely and was pretty phenomenal. And I can't believe I haven't been doing this before, but it was fucking fantastic, actually. And the whole thing was basically like, the guy was like, have you ever felt the bike get unstable when you're in transition? And I was like, well, yeah, that's top of mind for me right now. And the whole knee to knee exercise was basically, what's happening is you're on one side of the bike, right? So maybe my hand's the bike, your body's off here to the right. You come over to the other side of the bike and you rotate, you lean the bike over, right? Where's your weight transfer happening from and to, right? And everyone who rides, I mean, if you're at the point where you're trying to learn this stuff, you know it should be your legs, right? Like, you know the answer is legs. The guy's gonna say it and you have to go, it's supposed to be your legs, right? But the point is, if you're doing this transition, okay, then the sort of natural thing to do is so my left leg, which is this hand now, will be touching the tank, and then as I do the transition, it'll come off, and then this one will come in, and then I'll be hanging now so that my right leg is on the outside of the tank, right? So you kind of move all together nice and coordinatedly. Except what happens is, there's that window of time where your left leg's disconnected from the tank, and your right leg hasn't come and hit the tank yet. And because you've got no tank connection, the only way you're dragging your body across the bike is by putting some significant amount of weight on your hands to push, and or picking your butt sort of quite high off the seat and then plonking it down, doing like a quite significant, like, you know, up and squat, and really having to sort of bump yourself over, because it's very hard to get the forces necessary to push your body, because you can't pull, right? If you're using a lower body like that, you'd have to be pushing with the outside leg while trying to bring the knee in, and the angles don't make much sense, right? Because your foot's all the way down there, and you've got no connection in the middle of the bike. Anyway, knee to knee is just always have one knee on the tank at a time, and it was this exercise of basically forcibly transitioning one knee to the other before moving any other part of the body, right? So you're hanging off the bike like this, and doing it quite aggressively too. And then the axle exercise, they had us get on the practice bike and do this until he was happy with it. Everyone in the class, which was nice, and it made a big difference. But and the point was, the exercise was basically hang off to the right, slam your right knee into the tank, then hang off to move and hang over to the left, then slam your left knee in and then move. And so you always, you know, it's like first you bring your knee in, and then you use that to get up and over, and use that point of contact with the tank to solve it. And the other little nuance there was that, and he did a really good job showing this, was that if all you do is you slam your inside knee in and then move, as you move, the point where you slammed it in will end up being too low on the tank, because the way that you want to hang off, it involves some hip rotation. It's very hard to explain and very, very easy to see if you just get on the bike. Maybe if you're like 6'3" or 2, this would be less true. I'm 5'10" and a bit, and so the thing they do is you sort of raise your heel, or he kept saying point your toes, but the knee that's being slammed in, you raise the heel and slam in, so you're sort of pulling it up high, and you lock it into the top of your tank, right? Because sports bike tanks have that little slot cut out for your knee. So you slam it in, and then you move. And what happened was, as soon as I got out on track, it was serene. It was great. I mean, it wasn't serene because it was like banging my knee in, right, and my groin is killing me today. But it added all the stability that I felt like you needed in those transitions in the bike. The only time I got any instability was when I was being silly with the throttle and doing silly things. But yeah, so heel raise, knee in, then move, and you've got this point of contact now. The nicest thing about this too, actually, for me, was that I'd actually been hanging too far off the bike with my butt, and what happens when you do that, and you can see this if you just sit on your bike, is the farther you move your butt out, the more that your knee will actually be disconnected from the tank. And your knee is where you want to have the force, because it's you've got the best sort of lever action with your groin, so you get the most amount of outside leg strength. Sorry, this person's going very slow. You get the most amount of outside leg strength if you've got your knee and your whole inner thigh all locked in into your tank, in alignment with your tank. And really, that's probably, for most folks, it's only like half a butt cheek off the seat. You don't have to get your whole ass off the seat like Marc Marquez. But for me, okay, I don't have an S1000. How far is half a butt cheek? How far in the heat of the moment, right? You've got about a quarter of a second, boom, to get that movement exact, where, you know, either I'm picking my butt up or sliding across, it was feeling really inconsistent, and it would mean that sometimes I'd be halfway through a corner and I'd feel that my outside leg didn't have a good connection and that I was too far off the bike. My inside leg was straining, and my muscles get sore and it's all out of sorts. But maybe you don't want to move in the middle of the corner. I mean, I tried a few times and it unsettles the bike. But that you're just spending a lot of time in this really straining position that's not, you're using a lot more force than you need to because your knee's not got good connection, and you're sort of missing the drill a bit. So anyway, the point of the knee-to-knee thing is you raise your heel and slam your knee in. Then instead of thinking about moving your butt, you just think about moving your inner thigh, and you just slide your butt until your inner thigh has that nice full lock on the tank, and then you're done. That's it. And you're not actually thinking, okay, I need to move exactly 3.5 inches to the left, and then 7 inches to the right, and then 7 inches to the left again. And you don't have to worry about that. It's just knee in, slide, knee in, lock thigh, knee in, lock thigh, knee in, lock thigh, and it's for me it was, especially on an unfamiliar bike whose dimensions were not what I was used to, right? Since my bike is the Juke 390, which is very skinny. So yeah, that practice session I got a lot out of. It's actually funny, I was looking at a lot of the photos here. In a fair number of the corners, sessions 1, 2, and 3, I'm actually leaning the bike less than I was on level 2 at the same thing. And on the one hand, everyone wants, I want the cool photo of me leaning the bike over and looking like I know what I'm doing. But I was just very focused on the lesson and this body position stuff. It was all I was thinking about. And it was very easy for that to consume my whole brain while I was on the track, because it was making a noticeable impact. It was feeling good, it was feeling better, and it was making an impact. After session and lesson 2, about 3/4 of the course of the class got a video review session. It's actually kind of funny. They did, there was 10 people, and they did 7 of 10 got a video review after session 2, and then I got mine after session 3, or maybe it was after 3 and 4, I forget. But it's actually sort of odd, because if you got the video review as 1 of 7, then you didn't get much. You kind of got much time for your video. Or maybe it bled into lunch. That might be it. It might bled into lunch break. That's how I would do it. I think that does make sense. Okay, so never mind. All right. So anyway, that was 2. And what I think what was interesting after 2 is that the feedback I was getting from my instructor, and I was with him and Elise. I was with him and two others, right? It's 1 of 3. When I did level 1, I was 1 of 2, which was really nice. But it was instructor and 3 students. And when I'd done 1 and 2, I'd always hung around the table to hear what the other students were getting feedback from him, because there was, you're just learning, right? It's just one-on-one advice, and even if it's not really for you, we're all learning the same lessons. So hearing the feedback the instructor's giving to another student can just be really helpful from like an osmosis standpoint, just to pick up stuff. And I'd really enjoyed that. And I don't really know what it was, but I actually halfway through stopped sticking around to hear the feedback for the other 2, because they were getting feedback about the lessons. Like, they were getting feedback around body position, knee to knee. We go into lesson 3, which I'll get to in a second, which was the hip flick. And my feedback on that stuff was great. That was the feedback, was like, good job. And then actually all of my feedback throughout the whole day, which I guess I'll just talk about now, was around level 1 and 2 lessons that I was fucking up. And there were a couple of reasons I was fucking these up. One, I'd picked up a number of bad habits from the track days that I'd done since level 1 and since level 2, which totaled 5 or 6 track days, all on my Duke 390. And the bad habits kind of came from a couple places, and there were primarily 2 of them. The first was something that my instructor himself got like right on, which was the throttle control stuff from level 1, and he didn't actually even fully call out the ways that I realized that this was actually messing me up. So basically, what he called out was that there was one corner, so Thunderhill West, 4 to 5. 4 is a decreasing radius, tight left-hander that comes back on you. Then you get a short straight, opens up. It's not that far, maybe 30 yards or 40 yards, maybe. And then a right-hander, and the right hand is quite shallow, quite wide. The curb's friendly, and then there's you know a long 100-yard straight after that, basically. And what was happening is I was coming out of 4, right, decreasing radius, trail brake to the apex, quite slow and quite low in the revs. Was getting on the gas to 5, and then when I would get to 5, I was like, I feel confident. Like, I'd done all these track days on my Duke, whatever, familiar with the stuff, and I was like, I didn't feel any apprehension about the bike's speed, position, RPMs, anything. And so not only was I not really rolling off the gas, I was sort of just pausing and holding it sort of constant halfway up. There were a couple corners where if I'd, undercooked? If I'd overslowed for 4, or hadn't gotten on the throttle very hard coming out, I was actually rolling on the gas and leaning the bike into 5. And nothing ever went wrong with this because the electronics on the S1000 are very friendly. B, I'm not really riding very aggressively. I'm not very fast. And maybe those 2. My sense that I was well within the bounds of my own limits and the bike's limits and the tires limits, and I was like comfortably within that margin, I think was very accurate. Like, I think I have a good sense of that. But of course, this is like you do not want to be building a habit of adding lean angle and rolling on the throttle. That's like absolutely not what level 1 is trying to teach you. But what I realized, and he didn't call out directly, and I think we would have had time to even talk about this, and this is kind of what I mean by the instructor thing. Like this was on me to, like, he was just like, no, don't do this, right? And I'm like, of course, yes. But then it's on me to put together the second dot, which is that one of the things that, in hindsight, I kind of felt from all of the first 3 sessions I did, and I haven't talked about 3 yet, was that my whole brain was consumed with the body position stuff that I was working on, but I didn't actually feel like I was going quicker than I was in level 2. I was more confident. My straight lines speed was faster, but my corner speed and my lean angles were actually either equivalent or not even as good as they had been in level 2. And I wasn't really bothering myself with that because I was very, very focused on the lesson and what I was trying to learn with getting my body position right, and it wasn't right for most of the day, and that was the right thing to do. But I will say what the other thing that was happening is you've got to put all the pieces together. Speed, line selection, vision, lean angle, body position, they all influence each other. So I think later in the day I was playing with corner 9, which is you come downhill into a sort of right hand. It is technically, I suppose, a hairpin, but it's relatively shallow. go too slow now on the arsehole. And I was messing that corner up all day until the very end of the day when I was really tired. And it's like, why was I messing up? Why was I messing up? And you know, the feedback, I both the instructor, I was like, hey, I'm messing this corner up. I can't get it right. These are all the things that are going wrong. I highlighted for him the line selection, whatever, and I was like, I know what I need to do. I know that I'm over braking, but I can't get it right. And he's like, where's your reference point, right? Lesson level 1 still, where's your reference point? And I was like, I don't have one. He's like, well, go pick a reference point and then we can talk about it. But at that point, we didn't need to talk about it again, because I picked a reference point, braking reference point, and a turning reference point, and they were not perfect, but just picking one allowed me to work on it, and that was, I think that was session 4, but that was all I needed. Anyway, sorry, I'm off track here, but I'm still talking about the rolling on and lean thing, and the point that I want to make is that the reason, one of the things I was fucking up on that corner 9 is, as I was putting in all of these other pieces and carrying more speed, it just, everything changes everything else. So if you're going into a corner faster, you need to start turning sooner, so maybe that means moving your reference point back. But if you're also working in your body position, then you'll have maybe more lean angle to play with. And so if you have more lean angle, actually you'd move your reference point back. And then if you're bringing trail braking in, then you can also move your reference point back a little bit, because you'll be slowing more, slowing all the way to the apex. And corner 9 is one that you do trail braking for. And so the intersection of getting more confident, getting faster, which means maybe bringing much more speed into corners and having to brake and turn sooner, but also leaning more and trail braking, so you move these points back. I mean, am I supposed to move my reference point backwards or forwards? And you have, how the fuck should I know? Like, I'm coming down the corner, coming over the crest of the hill, coming downhill into corner 10-9. I've got like 0.4 of a second. Maybe less, maybe more, probably 0.7 of a second, maybe a whole second, to make a decision on turning point, roll off point, braking point, ideally the same, roll off point, braking point, turning point, based on these factors. And they put sticky tape over my speedo so I don't glance at it. I don't even know how fast I'm fucking going. Just have to rely on my like sense of speed, which is, again, that's a level 1 lesson, but I haven't been on the BMW, I haven't been on this track for 6 months. I don't know what my sense of speed is relative to the previous lap, and it's what I'm trying to work on, and I know you want to work on it, so you don't just have to rely on the dash. But I'm trying to work on my body position, not my sense of speed. That's all I'm thinking about. So I'm not thinking about any of this other shit that I need to be thinking about if I want to stitch it all together. I'm trying to learn new stuff, and it matters because there were some corners where I would feel so goddamn confident, come over, and then like stop leaning because I was like about 5 inches, or it felt like I was missing the apex. I could feel myself, my head being over the inside, and I know that's what you're supposed to feel, but I was like, okay, if I go more, I'm gonna run off on the inside, and before you say, oh, that's just what it's gonna feel like, it's not gonna happen. I literally did that in level 2. I literally, they brought the lean bike in, and I was the last guy on the lean bike before our session. I hopped off the lean bike, ran to my bike. Half the kids were already out there. I hopped on my bike, go out, and then on the 4th corner of the track, boom, lean bike, boom, turn over, but using the same reference point that I've been using before, with like probably 10 degrees more lean angle, and I went right off the inside of turn 4 at Thunderhill, and then over again to turn 5. Luckily, thankfully, there was no one right behind me. So it's a real thing that I'd already experienced, and blending the intersection of all the different skills was really challenging. So the feedback that I got on from my instructor the whole thing was around this level 1 and level 2 stuff. So yeah, pick your reference points and all that. Yeah. I also think that that's something to be said for like slowing the pace a little bit, because then you've got that confidence from sort of. It's tough though, because even if you slow the pace, you're going to get, if you do all the lessons, you'll gain more confidence at your slower pace, and so you're going to get more confident. And even if you, so what I'm saying is, like, if I'd started session 1 at 70% of sort of force pushing brain power on like how I was riding, speed and all that, and I was running at like 90%, I would say, or maybe 85. If I'd slowed it down a bit, I might have had more wiggle room. But even then, you can feel all the benefits from these lessons stacking up. So 70, if I would need to go drop to like 60%. Like I would need to actively slow the pace down over the course of the day in order to keep within the same sort of zone. I don't know. Anyway. All right, fuck all that. Lesson 3, level 3, the hip flick. I got the least out of this one because maybe ergos of the bike. The one thing that I got out of it was, but they'd already kind of said it in the second one, was don't pick your butt off the saddle. You're not trying to do a squat, just slide it across. And if you need to load your legs to lift the weight a little bit, do it. But you're not doing squats on this bike, you're sliding it across. But the actual hip flick has two main points to it. One, you are pulling your butt from one side of the seat to the other with your outside inner thigh. You are not pushing with your inside leg, which I fucking do on and off all day. It just feels so natural to me, and it fucks your thigh up. I mean, you're doing a one-legged squat all day, and from a really, really bad point of leverage. So the actual hip flick is you're leaning off the bike, right? You've just done knee to knee. The hip flick is you link the knee to knee with moving your sliding or flicking your hips and therefore your butt, but not your chest and shoulders and head. The butt and the hips move first, and then you come across, and they move not before the knee to knee, and so you're not violating the knee to knee principle, but you are moving the butt. So there were a couple things here. One of the students got in, he was pushing the instructor a bit, because I don't think the verbal explanation was particularly good, although the demo was good. But he was like, doesn't this contradict the knee to knee thing? But the demo was, the guy's knees were still always touching, but he was, instead of going knee and then move, it was like knee and move, or like knee and move. But I was like, look, for me, the knee to knee thing is helping me work out how far I should be moving on the bike, with that inner thigh lock a lot, and I'm liking that a lot. So I sort of kept doing the knee hip. So it's like I kept doing the knee to knee hip flick and then move thing and sequencing it. Ideally I would be doing it all together, but there were a few corners where I was trying it all together, and I was over moving over the seat because I didn't have that inner thigh reference to feel to go off. And if you're over moving, then you're going to overload the inner leg. You've got no point of leverage. I was getting quite tired at this point. Physically, I mean, I'm tired now. So that was lesson 3, the hip flick. It was okay. It helped, but not as much as the knee to knee had. then I got my video, and this was the second major thing that I was messing up feedback-wise. The video review guy, he knows his shit. I mean, I was so impressed just by watching. He's watching the instructor point of view from me, right? And again, this is what I mean in terms of my feedback. He had no feedback on my body position stuff whatsoever, which is all level 3 is about to be. He was like, yes, you are clearly trying to follow these lessons and clearly conscious of your own body position and movements. Because, like a lot of people think they're doing stuff and they're not. And he was like, just keep working on it. But just from looking at the back of my helmet the instructor wasn't even that close to me. From maybe like a bike length or 2 bike lengths back, he was like, where are you looking? And he could tell that I was looking too far ahead, which is not what you usually hear someone doing at a track day, right? I think what he could also tell from my line selection, actually, because looking at my own feedback, my lines were shit, and that was contributing to a whole bunch of other problems. But a lot of it was he was pointing out in the video, like you could see my line was shit, and by the time that I would be approaching a corner, and I don't mean like getting into a corner, I mean like, you could see the corner, I was already looking through the corner, and I never actually would hit, the turning point properly, and I was almost always early turning, early apexing, and again, and I just talked about having a problem with early apexing because I'm adding more lean and keeping the same reference points. Here, I'm not even fucking hitting the reference points, so I'm adding more lean, not really adding a lot of speed, and I'm turning before or to the inside of the turning point that I should be on. It's an absolute disaster. And he just followed me for 3/4 of a lap with the video footage, looking at it, and he was just like, where are you looking? And when he said it, and I was looking at it, and I was like, I know where I'm looking, and it's not. I can see it in the video. I'm looking down the track. I think in my head, like the wide vision thing had been really impactful from level 2, but the whole connecting the dots, the 3-step, boom, boom, boom. You move your vision to the next one when you know you're gonna hit it. That had fallen out of my brain in the heat of learning everything else. And as soon as I went back out after getting that, things really started to come together. And so that was, as it always is with me and the Superbike School, session 4. Like session 4 is always when it all just comes together for me. And I'd got the feedback, so I went in. I was bringing the knee to knee, the hip flick, like move your butt when you're on the gas, obviously. And then the lesson for level 4 was they call it the hook turn, and it's just really rolling and dropping your upper body all the way down halfway through a corner, and not halfway through all the time, but in order to experience the fact that you can, without adding lean angle to the bike, without braking, without changing your throttle or handle controls at all, you can tighten the line of the motorcycle in a corner, mid-corner, so it's just free safety, like free tightening, by changing the combined center of mass in you and the bike, and that's just by getting yours down. And it was actually really important that they said down and not out, and he really showed this on the bike. You're not pushing off or leaning out, and it really does kind of feel like rotating the shoulders actually, and like dropping the chest. I'm looking at some of my photos from this session, and I still, after the day, knowing what I know, I think my inner elbow was blocking me a little bit here, and I need to point it more so I can actually rotate, right? Because you can't really, if your elbow's here on the handlebar, you can't really drop. You get this is all you can do. Whereas when you point it out, you can do that. But yeah, so anyway, they called it the hook turn, and it was just experience, like really getting down, kind of eyes level with or below the windscreen, It feels cool. It looks cool. It puts my legs were destroyed halfway through this session. Actually, because of all the sort of accumulated misplays that I'd been making over the course of the day in terms of body position, leg strain, inside leg over reliance. About halfway through session 4, I had to raise my hand and roll off the gas, and then do a whole lap without moving my butt out of the bike at all. No body position at like 60% throttle, and just to recover some juice in my legs, because I was dying. But session 4 is when it really all came together, because I brought lesson 4 in, brought the hook turn in, brought the moving setting up before the corner while you're on the gas, knee to knee, hip flick, locking the inner thigh and the outside, and then I also brought the lessons from level 1 and level 2 that I'd been fucking up, right? So I stopped doing maintenance throttle in the middle of a corner, and I stopped rolling on the gas. But yeah, that was another piece of feedback I didn't mention from Mark. He was like, this turn you're rolling on the gas, and then after session 3 we took about another corner, and he was like, what do you mean maintenance throttle? And I was like, well, it's just so long. It was turn 6 at Thunderhill, which is, it's like this really long, really shallow corner, right? And I was like, I mean, like, if I don't crack the throttle, again, the same thing, right? If I didn't crack the throttle, and like, it's not that I was just like randomly activating throttle. I was still following, in my mind, I'd already corrected the problem, which was, don't be rolling on the gas until you're ready to roll on the gas, right? And so, and don't be rolling on the gas while you're adding lean angle, any of that stuff, obviously. But turn 6, I was cracking the throttle when my line was the line that I wanted, right? I couldn't see the exit because it's this really long, shallow thing. But the alternative to where I was cracking the throttle in my mind, or by the time I got to mid corner, certainly the alternative was standing the bike up halfway through the corner, because my radius was tightening dangerously close to the inside of the corner, right? Because my speed was dropping, and obviously I have some. I literally have cut off a corner on this track before, so I'm conscious of that. So I was just going, getting set up, getting online, and then cracking the throttle, rolling it on, and then holding it, and then rolling on, coming out, right? And I was trying to ask him a question around something else, and I was like, well, I'm in that sort of maintenance throttle mode, right? And he was like, no, don't be doing that, right? And he was not particularly enthusiastic, and he was just telling me off, which is correct. But what I realized is that maintenance throttle was covering for bad habits and preventing me from actually getting faster, because what I actually should have been doing is carrying more corner speed. Not carrying more corners, but coming into the corner hotter. Like, because I was relying on, okay, halfway through, I just cracked the gas to go through. I wasn't actually coming in fast enough, and because I knew I could do all that, I wasn't actually trying to play with any of these things, and I was just relying on it to solve my problems, and actually riding slower, less smoothly, less safely, and just all around worse. And so, yeah, session 4, not only was I working on all the other things, but I was actively working on this stuff too, and sort of saying and thinking to myself, coming into the corners, more gas, like give it more, come in, and when it's straight, on the straightaway, don't just go like brr, like brake, and then like brr, brr. But I was like, really, you feel, especially the S1000, really getting on it, even if it's just for a little bit, and then getting off and going into the corner, and not ever trying to use this bullshit maintenance throttle. And again, this is where I was talking about bad habits, like the Juke, the 390. I mean, it's like you're sort of just on the gas the whole time with that thing, and maybe these are the bad habits, and maybe I'm wrong and there's some other way to ride it, but yeah, there's certainly I felt like I got that bad habit from that bike. All my fault, of course. But yeah, session 4 was kind of the highlight for me, because pulled it all together, plus the actual thing that was most apparent for me was the reference points, the 10 points, and the vision. Like I was hitting, it probably doesn't look like it, and a lot of times I was playing with my lines because there was traffic, but I felt like the bike was where I wanted it to be. And that was in addition to having all this body position flexibility. That was very confidence inspiring. I think I only got one good photo out of the whole session before my legs died, but you know, you can really see me hanging off the bike, getting down low, the lean angles there, and I don't quite think I touched my knee in that corner, but if the photo had been about a quarter of a second later, I think it would have been pretty cool. And you know, like the video guide, he had this, I'm just gonna just harp on it because he was fantastic, but he was telling me I'm looking in the wrong place, and I'm just thinking, you know, I'm hearing him tell me I'm looking halfway up the track, and I'm looking at myself, and I think, I know what memory-wise how it feels. I think I'm all the way at the far edge on the outside of the track, about to come in, right? And I look at myself, and I'm at least a bike length in, at least. And it's just because I'm not even looking, you know. Not even looking. I'm looking up the track. So when I was making sure, okay, eyes laser focused on where I want the bike to be, and then, you know, when I know I'm gonna hit that point, then I move my vision, and it's not like flick halfway 3 miles up the track. It's like flick to the next point, I'm gonna hit, to the next point I'm gonna hit, boom, 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 kind of tracing track. So in some ways, it did feel a little faster, right? This is what the guy said, right? Like, you're trying to slow the pace down because you're looking so far ahead, so nothing feels like it's coming at you, but then, you know, you get freaked out in the middle sometimes because stuff happens that you weren't really focused on, and that's absolutely true. And so I was focusing, so boom, 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 hit all the points, hit all the body position stuff. Yeah, it was fucking beautiful. I love that session, and I was really putting it all together. And then lesson 5, I was sort of not really much new content. It's just the same, but in reverse. So you had the hook turn, which is where you do sort of, you use that the extra body movement you have going into a corner, and lesson 5 is use it on the exit instead. And you could do it the whole way too. That's just a lot of extra strain on your legs, but they called it the pickup, and it's just picking the bike up coming out of the corner. And I got about 3 laps feeling really good with that, and then yeah, my legs were done for the day. So then I just practiced the pickup only using my upper body without moving my butt out the seat at all, and actually it still worked, and it still felt great. I was doing about similar lap times really, but yeah, it's you know, you do the exact everything that they talked about in the hook turn, but on the exit instead. So you get that bike stood up and get yourself on the throttle faster and harder and more aggressively with more safety, because oh, that was my fucking turn. Yeah, anyway, that's honestly it. I mean, I didn't really get much more out of it than that. That's sort of all my lessons. I think that all should make a lot of sense to you. Yeah, anyway, had a good time. Hopefully I can review this before level 4, which we're thinking of doing in September. Hey, buddy. and it'll all come back to me, make sense, and I should probably review this before the next track day I do as well, because I'm going to pick these bad habits up again, and it's really important that I just focus on the fundamentals and don't forget all the good stuff. And also, I need to find a workout I can do for my lower body, because I can't be having, I mean, I was dead. I can't be having that. We got to get these legs. I got to get these legs in shape. All right, that's it.